The last image looked almost empty. No planets, no stars bright enough to dominate the frame, no dramatic explosion, no clear object waiting in the darkness. Just a faint field of light, noise, shadow, and distance. At first, it seemed like nothing more than the final visual whisper of an aging spacecraft drifting too far from home. But then, scientists looked closer. One small detail did not belong. A faint shape, a strange point of light, a distortion hidden in the darkness. And suddenly, the image was no longer empty. It became one of the most unsettling reminders that even in the deepest silence of space, something may still be waiting to be seen. Voyager 1 was never meant to become a ghost in the dark. It was launched in 1977, during a time when space exploration still felt heroic, dangerous, and almost impossible. The outer planets were distant mysteries. Jupiter and Saturn were worlds seen mostly through telescopes, drawings, and imagination. Then Voyager changed that. It flew past Jupiter and revealed storms, moons, radiation belts, and a system more violent than anyone had truly pictured. It passed Saturn and showed us rings filled with structure, gaps, shadows, and icy fragments moving in perfect silence. And then, after completing its planetary mission, Voyager 1 did something even more extraordinary. It turned back from billions of miles away. It looked toward home and captured one of the most emotional images in human history. Earth as a tiny paled, almost lost in a beam of sunlight. That image reminded humanity of something we often forget. Everything we know is here. Every city, every war, every ocean, every voice, every person who has ever lived, all of it suspended on a speck of light. But Voyager did not stop there. It kept moving outward, year after year, decade after decade, farther than any human-made object had ever traveled. And as it moved deeper into space, its images became less frequent, its systems became weaker, and its mission changed from exploration to survival. That is why the idea of a last image carries so much weight, because a final image is not just data. It feels like a goodbye, a last look from a machine that has seen more of the solar system than any human eye ever will. But this image did not become important because it was beautiful. It became important because of what may have been hiding inside it. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable, just darkness. But in space, darkness is not always empty. Sometimes darkness hides distant stars. Sometimes it hides dust. Sometimes it hides radiation, reflections, or objects too faint to notice. And sometimes the most important detail in an image is the one almost everyone misses. That is the tension at the heart of the story. If the last image from Voyager 1 was only a technical artifact, then it tells us something about an aging spacecraft reaching the end of its visual life. But if the strange detail inside that image was real, if it came from something beyond Voyager, then the meaning changes completely. Because Voyager 1 was no longer looking at familiar worlds. It was looking into the dark frontier beyond the planets, a region where sunlight is weak, where distance erases detail, and where even a small point of light can become a question. And the question raised by that final image is simple. What did Voyager see before it stopped looking? A last image has a different kind of power. Most images from space are scientific records. They are measurements, evidence, and data captured by instruments and turned into something the human eye can understand. But a last image feels personal. It feels like a final look, a closing frame, a goodbye from a machine that has traveled farther than anything humans have ever built. And for Voyager 1, that idea is especially powerful because of what the spacecraft had already shown us. It had seen Jupiter up close. It had watched the giant planet's storms move across its atmosphere like living systems. It had seen moons that looked nothing like dead rocks. Io with its volcanic fury, Europa with its smooth, icy surface, Ganymede and Callisto carrying ancient scars from the violent history of the solar system. Then Voyager 1 moved on to Saturn. The rings, which had once looked simple from Earth, became a vast and delicate structure, not solid, not smooth, but made of countless pieces of ice and dust moving in a gravitational dance around the planet. Voyager revealed shadows in those rings, gaps, braids, patterns, and details no one had ever seen from Earth. For many people, those images defined an entire era of space exploration. They were not computer graphics. They were not simulations. They were not artist impressions. They were real pictures taken by a spacecraft flying past worlds no human would ever touch. And then, after its planetary encounters, Voyager 1 did something that still feels almost impossible. It turned its camera back toward home. From the edge of the known planetary frontier, it captured Earth as a tiny point of light, the pale blue dot, a single pixel suspended in a sunbeam. That image did not reveal a new planet. It did not show alien life. It did not solve a cosmic mystery, but it changed the way many people felt about Earth. Because from that distance, everything human became small. Every border vanished. Every argument disappeared. Every empire became invisible. Every life was contained in a speck of light. It was one of the most humbling images ever taken. And after that, Voyager's cameras were no longer needed in the same way. The spacecraft was moving away from the planets. There were no more giant worlds ahead to photograph. Power had to be conserved. Instruments had to be managed. The mission had changed. Voyager 1 was no longer a photographer of planets. It was becoming a messenger from the dark. That is why the idea of a final image carries so much weight. Because once the cameras fall silent, there is a kind of emotional finality. A spacecraft can still send data. It can still measure fields and particles. It can still transmit engineering information. But without images, something changes for us.